What's up, everybody? All right, it is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, first day of the month here. September ended yesterday. So interesting market day of trading, above average volume today. A lot of focus on Bitcoin. Big drop today. I'll share the doc and see what exactly happened today. We were saying where the market was getting to a distribution phase, and I think that's what happened. But let's see, what's going on here with what happened today. All right, so today here, look at this amazing things you could do with AI. Of course, it's always worth the valuations, right? Okay, so basically today, Bitcoin dropped 3%, while energy, if you saw what happened today in the news on geopolitical, Iran strike on Israel, energy, Chinese internet, and gold jumped. All right, so those were the successors today. Bitcoin not so stellar. We'll look at all the charts that matter. Utilities, industrials, and communications reached new all-time highs. Some did reverse. This is what we're going to be looking at today. So let me just make this a little bit bigger. So biggest movers today, yeah, the XLE, the energy sector, a lot of the USO, Brent oil, a lot of them had big moves today, obviously on the volatility, but the XLE, the major sector, ETF was up 2.5%. Chinese internet continues to run. I think the broader Chinese ETF had a little bit of a calmer day, but the Chinese internet continues to zoom up 6%, and gold was up 1%. So totally a defensive day, a lot of risk off. And then Bitcoin was the actual only registered multiple sigma loser today, 3%, which is not a small range for Bitcoin. Everything else, I know the NASDAQ got smoked 1.4%. Same as IWM. SPY fared better, down 90 bips. We'll look at the chart, but Bitcoin got hit pretty good today. We'll look at that. And top three gainers of the past 5 days. I just realized I was shaking my legs like a psychopath. And scaring Rocco and myself a little. Top three gainers of the past 5 days. Chinese internet up 19%. This thing continues to go. We'll see if there's meat on the bone, if you chase it, or if you just got to wait 2 weeks. But it's absolutely incredible. Up 19%. Made me twitch. Up almost 4% per day. And volatility up 9% in the past 5 days. So also a good move. Today had a big run up, and then nat gas continuing to kill me from the inside. The nat gas up 3.5% today. Obviously, Helene did a lot of damage, and the production numbers were very, very poor. And then top three losers of the past 5 days. Bitcoin did not help its chances today, slipping another 3%. But this thing's down almost 10% now. You call it 10% over the past 5 days. So very weak going into last week. And then Mexico and Taiwan, when the emerging markets, glow faded a little bit off of China after a little bit of a peak, the other weaker ones came off exceptionally. So Mexico super weak, Taiwan not actually, but we'll take a look at that chart. And the top three trades of the past 5 days, if you were long Chinese internet, short Bitcoin, and long vol, you're absolutely crushing it. So obviously when I see long vol, the easy options trade is, you could go long KWEB calls, probably, something shorter term because you're going to pay a lot in implied volatility. So maybe something like an October at the money or 35 delta call. And then short Bitcoin, you could buy, at the money or slightly in the money puts. And then long VXX, I don't like to buy options on that exact index. But so first of all, let's get into the SPY chart on the intraday. Very interesting day trading. I will share the charts before someone yells at me. No, I'm kidding. Thanks for the feedback before member one. Okay, so here's intraday trading. Then we heard the news about the reported reports of a missile strike this morning, and the S&P sold off pretty hard here from 573 to 569. So almost 1% just there in that go, and we continue to trade lower and trade pretty badly actually into a low at 11 a.m. You see this very important orange line I'm going to allude to. It's volume weighted average price. It's literally what it sounds like. All these averaged out volume dollar weighted average price of where it's trading. So obviously these blocks are going to be more meaningful at dragging the price down because they're big red bars. And then if you get a larger bar here, however, still red, it would drag it closer to the orange line. So as you see here, we got our legs above us here at 130. A very nice rally off the lows here from 566. Getting all the way 570, a very hardy rally, and then there was some money managers flushing out sales towards the end of the day at 330 bar. But look at that, how far they could take it to. Such an important technical number I use all the time, especially for any type of trading. Is VWAP 568.83 is where we ended the day, and we closed right about there, down 90 bips on the S&P. A very important number. So we're talking to you before, the accumulation phase of S&P ending on or around September 25th. Interesting to know, the S&P, as I see it here, it's probably going to clock in today, but September 26th was the date for 3 of the 4 indices of the accumulation phase ending, meaning basically just calm your you-know-whats. We're not going to go to the moon and expect the digestion. So I'm going to basically, put the same forecast, and the S&P, I believe, very much should go to on or around. So the 26th, it's going to be on or around October 11th. It's going to be right around this 560 to 565 mark. So it made a nice little move there lower today in one fell swoop. I would expect gyrations up and down, and when all said and done, right around the 11th or so of October, give or take, you're going to be around 562, or about another % lower from here in the S&P. Also, in terms of seasonality, part of the calendar, October and today obviously was almost an advertisement for that the Bears are winning today, but it's not a big deal. The major trend is absolutely intact. I think if we're going to look at a tech chart, there is a head and shoulders chart that's appearing in semiconductors that does typically scare me, but you just have to be aware, and as I am as a trend follower, and I hope you are too, of there's something else to chase. So semis don't look amazing. They are one of the most important charts in the entire market, but I think home builders is overtaking that. So yeah, that's my forecast for the S&P. So pick your spots. I think you're going to get a lot of, maybe not a ton of movements like this, considering I have a floor about 1% away. If a sell-off gets really ugly, you can get all the way to the 545 or so mark, essentially those early September lows. All right, so let's get now into the charts that moved today, and how did they get there, right? All right, so XLA, I make it pretty dark, and then I can't find it. All right, here's XLA. So up 2.5% today. Of course, I don't know if you saw, but I entered a Schlumberger short last week through a put spread. Obviously, this hurts the position because the whole market, obviously surged upward on the geopolitical news. So take a look at this. We were talking about this earlier about this has been a significantly important measure for energy, like just a towing the line since mid-June. So for the past, almost 4 months, it hasn't really got away from it, plus or minus, I'd say 5% away from the 200-day moving average. You see it make a move here. I still think, obviously, today was a big mover for this event. Typically, energy and volatility can move like this. I still think over time, obviously, we have to see how the news goes, but over the next 2 to 3 weeks, everything in the charts tell me, when I usually do that, it usually is on the right path. Same as when we were saying, I don't know, seasonality, S&P is not going to make a new high, but if I'm looking at the charts, it should. And we did. So I'm looking at the charts, which is what I'm doing. This should go lower towards 83 over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll see. One day a trend does not make. So we will see. Again, very meaningful, this 200-day moving average, which is at 89.26. It's above it by 60 cents. Maybe it gets a little bit worse. There's heavy resistance at that line of about $91. So I'm not typically, like if you already took the pain on the Schlumberger position, I'm not anticipating significantly worse downside. So overall, I still think this is in distribution mode over the next 2 weeks, going towards 83, and basically from $97. That's quite a move. So look out for that. Obviously, a reversal today in this direction. I don't think it has a ton more to go. Okay, if you have a ticker or anything, please drop in the chat. All right, let's take a look at this. This thing is on fire for real. KWEB, Chinese internet. Let's see if there's anything left on this. Up again, 6% today. Absolutely sensational. Again, like I said, this stuff is frustrating for a trader because this thing is running. All kinds of mean reversion has me pointing this down to about 29, anytime over the next 2 weeks. But this is a freight train going one way, and if the train gets that close and the Amtrak, you hear the hit your ears, it's going to get frightened. And this is basically what this trading is doing. So here, when you look at the time frame, there's no resistance ahead, and you look at this bar. We close at the highs. It tells me this isn't done yet. There is still exuberance buying since they announced the stimulus on the 24th. You look at the volume; it's still there. Nothing even batting off. I think they had slightly lesser volume today, unless this data provider didn't update it until final after close. But so anyway, we'll zoom out here to 2-year highs. That's right there, my goodness. In January 2023 at 36.19. Obviously, I think FXI is at multi-year highs, so this will follow in line. So more percent to go. I think we'll probably make, there you go, first resistance here. If you go all the way to 3-year chart, and that's at 38.64, still 260 away. So you got another 7-8% to go. I don't know if it's going to get it all in this one run, but I know it sounds like a meaningless forecast because something like this is going one way from 27 to 36 in a couple of days on major national stimulus. So I would stay away, but I probably do think it's basically on the short-term candle patterns. This mofo is going higher, but I'm not going to chase it here. You probably can, but it's 7th innings. It looks like in the short term. Okie dokie. All right, and then gold. They did buy gold today. Let's take a look at this chart. So gold, give us some time. It was working off those nice, highs from the September 26th all the way from 247, and we got down here to about 242. Thought it was going to go lower. You got to give this time. Every time you have fear and stuff like this, especially since I think the market's going to be in distribution mode through October 11th or so, they're going to buy, especially a new high, chasing algos, as it were, into an asset like this. It's just going to continue going because it's defensive. It's also diversification. So there's a lot of purposes right now. So all that being said, I don't really want to enter this until about 239, 240, something like that. And then I would pounce. I think you might get your chance similar to market exposure in about 2 weeks. So be careful. It wasn't a big up move today, but they did gobble it pretty nicely. All right. So those were the big moves upwards, but you're saying, hey, market was down pretty hard today. Let's focus on the losers. And the chief of losers was your BITO, your Bitcoin. So let's take a look at this. I'm not going to go to BTC USD. We're going to go strictly on BITO, which registered. It's pretty similar, but this was down 4.5%. Kept on slipping towards the end of the day. Pretty ugly. So again, not what you want to see. The 200-day moving average rolling over. The highs really distant in the rear view here. 6 months. Something that's not really great about this, although the different for the Bitcoin chart. Typically in this, in terms of rotations, it's not really 6 months. You can have a quarter. You don't want to go much further than that. And that's why the semis are scary, because they're getting to that point. We'll see when earnings start in about 2 weeks with JPM. But this is not a wonderful chart. If you are portfolio manager and you're long BITO, there's not a ton of reasons here. This is like almost career risk, at least through this specific asset. It still is. You don't have a rising 200-day moving average. This thing is competing with levels it first reached back in November. Doesn't look super well. So what do we think here? I don't think the bottom's absolutely going to fall out, but I do think it's going to be in distribution mode to about 1640. So that's about another $1.20. That's going to feel pretty ugly. So I'm not the biggest Bitcoin, unfortunately, believer over the next couple of weeks or so. I'll just go to the chart to show you the differences. So again, expecting a bit. Yeah, I think it's going to brace and breach under the 200 moving average. Basically what you had in September, also what you had in August. There's a rotation underneath. The catalyst is, cutting interest rates. Home builders, I think, are going to be at the forefront of the trade here. These other assets like Bitcoin, semiconductors, these things that used to print money, it's just they look like they've not peaked or something like that, but potentially they just don't look as wonderful. You can't argue that even Bitcoin, looking at the strength of this chart here, it's just basically essentially range bound since it got this overbought period basically around Valentine's Day. So not the greatest looking chart. If we get to about 53K, I don't realistically. So what was I saying? My estimate was for BITO. I'll give a real estimate right here. Hold the phony. Oh, if you have a ticker or something you want to put in, I'll take a look at. Feel free. So I see a 7% reduction on Bitcoin over the next 2 weeks or so. So essentially, that's getting you down to right around 57K. I want to say. So yeah, it would breach that, get around here, and then reverse higher. So very sounds like what it's going to do. Okay, top 3 gainers of the past 5 days. No repeats in charts. Chinese internet absolutely on fire, up 19.5%. Next biggest gainer, volatility. So again, usually when I get that around the pivot date change, usually lets me know I read the EKG, as it were, or the charts properly. So especially when I see that vol pick up, lets me know that the market pretty much reached a short-term top, and now puts and other puts and calls are starting to be priced more appropriately, especially these. When you look at the CNN, I think it's another. CNN has a fear and greed index. It's almost like usually a day or two away when you have the absolute greed point, which also pivots with when I have that distribution and accumulation dates, greed versus, fear, of course. So here's VXX. So let me take a look at this. So VXX, why we're talking about it, is up 9.5% in the past 5 days. Up, obviously, the lion's share was today, up almost 8%. So again, I was surprised how much is hung in there. I thought when we had new all-time highs, we were going to sink through new 52-week lows. Never happened. And it could be specifically about the way, the borrow is done here in terms of the medium term, or the short term rather, futures. But I'm going to chart it just like it's regular time series chart. So definitely think this is going to hang in at least at 49. That's the short term floor. As you can see, the rising or the falling 200 moving average at 52.64. It got above it today. I think this is going to try and make a run towards as high as 58 today. I mean, it's up 8%. Obviously, geopolitical issues. I think you're going to get towards 58. You're going to get some vol expansion here. And you'll have a little bit more of this blue band, the Bollinger Band here, before we have consolidation. And I still believe in year end big time S&P rally. But short term, this will probably make it move towards 58, which is another 10% surge in volatility. All right. Only a few more. Oh, nat gas. I said this piece of junk is hitting me, unfortunately. Nat gas up 0.25% today, but sometimes I just want it to go down immediately. Obviously, these are October puts. I'm in the 14s, I believe, or 14 halves. I have to check. I might as well just do it here. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Bill O'Reilly, that was right. Okay. I'm long the 14 put, so that's not a super position. I thought I knew it, but just wanted to make sure. So what I said about a month ago is if you get a pretty tag to the 200 moving average, would be wonderful, stellar. I think if you're super patient, tortoise versus the hare at work, you're going to get this move to 1677, and that's where the 200 moving average. To me, it would be a sell signal, do it all, and then just take profits at 15. So again, I think I talked about this before. I might switch around a position or dollar cost average, or do some sort of some kind of a ladder spread to see if I think that target will come to fruition. But again, nat gas specifically, these guys don't have company earnings or something like that. They obviously have release numbers weekly, I believe, on the barrels. But this has been its track record. Back here, it did it June 12th, tagged the 200 moving average and got Dikembe. Rest in peace, Mutombo. Do the finger wag with me for him. Rest in peace, Dikembe. January, again, a 200-day moving average tag 2 times, and then Dikembe. And then Halloween of last year, Dikembe also last year. So to me, it's almost, unless there's a massive sentiment change and identity change, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that's your signal. The slope, last thing I'll say about it is the slope is slowing. It's not falling with deep, momentum, but it's still a loser. I would have an easy short, I would think, at 1677. But sometimes these can persist. Uranium had a similar setup, and it has surged through. But this one looks, just given its track record, a loser. Okay. That was the top 3 gainers of the past 5 days. It's having a nice run, up 3.5% in the past 5 days. So all the way from that candle. I think the buck ends soon, though, and this will make a move towards the next 2 weeks towards 15, as I said. Okie dokie. Top 3 losers of the past 5 days, no repeats in charts. We already did BITO, but it's taken on the chin, down 10%. A lot of it today. Over the past 5 days. Let's take a look at Mexico. EWW, it's a ways back from Bitcoin in terms of losses, but it is down 3% to take the second leader, take the silver, the losing silver. So terrible chart. 200-day moving average started going lower here. You have the highs here, obviously April 9th. They had a massive liberal election June 3rd, oversold, and has not recovered. Let's see what's happening now. It's obviously on the loser end. Yeah, I still think this is going to be on the distribution mode. I think this is headed towards about 50.75, right around here, basically matching its 52-week low. Maybe it holds, maybe it doesn't. That's more art than science. But this looks like it's headed lower. Hung in there today, flat, but this looks like it wants to go towards $51 over the next 1 to 2 weeks. All righty, so Mexico looking like no bueno. I think is what a technician there would say. And then Taiwan, again, emerging markets, some have fared, others, different fates. Mexico, terrible chart. Taiwan, quite good. It had a whole resurgence. So July 11th, it hit its 52-week high. And then here during the global, crash driven by Nikkei, a horrendous bar oversold for basically only the second time all year. It did it last December as well, but it looked like an oopsie. Right back, and pretty stellar. Got pretty close, but this isn't horseshoes, to a 52-week high a couple days ago on the 26th. So now say what? I still think this is not going to be in a great spot for the next 2 weeks or so. I would avoid, an area like this. I think this wants to head towards 50. So the trend overall will not be in jeopardy. I still think it'll hold to about here, but a little bit of a descent to about, $3.50 or so towards 50 handle. All righty then. Top three absolute. Yeah. So that was Taiwan down 3%, slightly more than Mexico over the past 5 dizzles. Top three absolute trades of the past 5 days, as I said. So long KWEB, just GTFO, man. Be careful or have tight stops. I think probably can continue to run given the candle patterns. It looks very strong. And you know what? In fact, I'm just going to look at FXI to see what the disparity was today. FXI had a very strong day in the end. All right, so it opened here. I stand corrected. I thought the index had a little bit of a lesser of a day, but the FXI just as strong at 4%. This looks like it's going towards its, it is. That's interesting. So here we go. It is at its 200-day moving average. We have to take a look and see what happens here. So China is on the clock in the longer term range. If it can hold 32.61, the FXI, I'd love to see it hold for, a couple of weeks, see how it holds. And this is clearly a turnaround story. Short BITO overall, the other chart does not look good. I think Bitcoin holders are going to be frustrated over the next 2 weeks. And long volatility, I would expect about another 10% surge over the next 2 weeks or so. And that coincides with the beginning of earnings with JP Morgan at the end of next week. And I think that'll be a relief to the market. Peace, y'all.